Thank God we found some of those bad people in the Olympics now, and not a moment too soon. The director of, no, that was sarcasm.
Just take us back to the moment crossing the line and seeing that world record time.
All the glory to God. Honestly, this season, just working with my new coach and just my new support system is truly just faith and trusting the process, and I couldn't ask for anything more, and truly it is just all a gift from God.
The goal of my life is to glorify him in everything that I do and to be more like him every single day when I wake up.
Science, 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 and science.
Well, the phenomenon of the ability to spread is clear. We're seeing that very, very clearly in a number of situations. When you look at the data that we've gotten from a single study so far, and other studies are coming out, you have a variability, but the mean, the sort of average or mean level of virus in the nasopharynx is really quite similar, almost identical on an average. So you would think, obviously, when you have biological variability, you're going to have some people high, some people low, some people in the middle. But the median or mean is going to be right there, which is very similar to the unvaccinated individual, which is troublesome, which tells you the potential for transmission is there.
Science, 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 and science.
Well, so yeah, you do need to think about it, and that's the reason why the recommendations are for kids under 12 that they avoid being in places where they might get infected, which means recommendations of mask wearing in schools, and that at home, parents of unvaccinated kids should be thoughtful about this, and the recommendation is to wear masks there as well.
Let me just follow up on that.
I know that's uncomfortable. I know it seems weird, but it is the best way to protect your kids.
Science, 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 and science.
Yes, cases are going to go up before they come back down. It's a pandemic of the unvaccinated. I know I've said that constantly, and others have as well. The vaccination of the unvaccinated. The vaccination of the unvaccinated. You know, and it's needless, taking a needless toll on our country. You know, we have roughly 350 million people vaccinated in the United States and billions around the world. And virtually no one's died because of that vaccination.
Science, 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 and science.
The Golden Globe winner, insisted that people need to care for one another and get back. We're in this together, guys. I feel it's your moral and professional obligation to inform, since we're not all potted up and being tested every day. And it's tricky, because everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but a lot of opinions don't feel based on anything except fear and propaganda. Motherfucker, Jennifer Aniston, what is it that you're doing? I mean, ain't that rich coming from these people? That's called, you know what we call that? A projection.
$1,400 checks into the pockets, for $1,400 checks into the pockets of millions of Americans. Help to keep their folks in their homes. Help to put food on the table. Remember those long lines we used to talk about? People lined up in their cars for hours just to get a box of food put in their trunk. Help the small businesses so they keep the lights on, their doors open, and their employees on the job.
Joe Biden has taken to himself to try to single out Florida over COVID. This is a guy who ran for president saying he was going to, quote, shut down the virus. And what has he done? He's imported more virus from around the world by having a wide open southern border. You have hundreds of thousands of people pouring across every month. And it's not just from Mexico. In fact, it's rarely from Mexico. You have over 100 different countries where people are pouring through. Not only are they letting them through, they're then farming them out all across our communities across this country. And one of the major medical people in his administration just recently told parents that they should be wearing masks at home when they're around their own children. This is insane. Joe Biden also believes that vaccination should be mandated by force of government, and that you should have to show vaccination status to be able to participate in society. Now, Biden, he rejects science because he denies the fact that people that recover from COVID have long-lasting immunity. And that's been proven time and time again, and the data is very clear. So his vision is and law-abiding citizens have to produce proof of their medical records just to go to the gym or attend an event or just to participate in everyday society. He wants that, but yet if you want to vote, he thinks it's too much of a burden to show a picture ID when you're voting. So no voter ID, but have to show your medical papers just to be able to live in everyday life? Give me a break. And so I think the question is we can either have a free society or we can have a biomedical security state. And I can tell you, Florida, we're a free state. People are going to be free to choose to make their own decisions about themselves, about their families, about their kids' education, and about putting food on the table. And Joe Biden suggests that if you don't do lockdown policies, then you should, quote, get out of the way. But let me tell you this. If you're coming after the rights of parents in Florida, I'm standing in your way. I'm not going to let you get away with it. If you're trying to deny kids a proper in-person education, I'm going to stand in your way, and I'm going to stand up for the kids in Florida. If you're trying to restrict people, impose mandates, if you're trying to ruin their jobs and their livelihoods and their small business, if you are trying to lock people down, I am standing in your way, and I'm standing for the people of Florida. So why don't you do your job? Why don't you get this border secure? And until you do that, I don't want to hear a blip about COVID from you. Thank you.
Inside of one of Chicago's busiest trauma centers.
It's been a sobering summer of violence that has erupted in Chicago. In just the prior 2 weekends alone, 89 people were shot. 18 lost their lives.
So, kind of one person after another. It's kind of, I guess it's somewhat typical for, a weekend in the summertime.
We see the equivalent of one mass shooting every week that comes into our center.
Cook County Health Stroger Hospital sees many of the most critical trauma cases in the city. Their staff witnesses the unrelenting violence firsthand, almost every minute of every shift.
Being a trauma nurse at county could be absolutely crazy. It's days that we don't get breaks, we don't eat, and we just like on the go, 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 go.
Last night in the city of Chicago, there were 3 mass shootings with multiple people shot. 2 of those mass shootings, we actually had multiple patients that came in.
I'm convinced if our patients looked a different way, that people would think about them differently, and that makes me sad.
During ABC News' recent One Nation Under Fire project, tracking gun violence for a 7-day period beginning July 17th, Cook County was at the top among the nation's counties with 109 incidents, accounting for nearly 11% of the overall U.S. total.
You don't know what's going to come in the door. Are you going to have a similar night as what my partner did yesterday? Or am I going to be busy in the operating room working to actively save people's lives?
And the hospital has seen a significant increase in gun violence since the pandemic began. In 2020, over 1,100 patients with gun injuries, and another 680 so far this year alone. The victims and their families bear the brunt.
It's unfortunate that the violence in Chicago is continuing to grow, and it's going to take a lot to help resolve that issue. But meanwhile, the team here at County, stay ready, and we always ready.
Unfortunately, they have way too much work to do, and being ready is necessary.
Private security, and some critics say that move is hypocritical. What's your response to those critics?
They would rather I die? You would rather me die? Is that what you want to see? You want to see me die? Because that could be the alternative. So either I spent $70,000 on private security over the last few months, and I'm here standing now and able to speak. I have private security because my body is worth being on this planet right now. I have private security because the white supremacist, racist narrative that they drive into this country, I'm going to make sure I have security because I know I have had attempts on my life. I have actual police officers who have threatened my life. Tell me about that. Tell me that I don't need security. And let me just say this last thing. My security is not against communal violence. My security is not to keep me safe from the people of St. Louis. My security is to keep me safe from those racist, attempts made against my life. I suggest you take several seats.
Congresswoman, have you had police officers threaten you?
Absolutely. I mean, I've been in this fight for 7 years. I'm a Ferguson activist. That happened to us. That has happened to us. It's not just me. Ferguson Frontline, that has happened to us multiple. I mean, it's more times than we can count.
But even now, as a member of Congress, you've had police officers threaten your life.
I mean, and they're still people. And you know what the thing is? They can threaten my life, and I'm still working for them. I'm still going to work for them. I'm still going to make sure their families are taken care of, because I'm no respecter of persons. If you have a need, I'm going to take care of you, because that's my job. I love the people, 100%. I don't care what your occupation is. I don't care if you like me at all. I'm still going to do the work to make sure that your family has clean water, clean air, health care, a place to live, and all of that, because that is who we have to be. Just love humanity.
But presumably, Congresswoman, I would hope that those, as you allege, those police officers would be removed, or at least you would let your security detail and the mechanisms in place in Congress to ensure that those officers are not still patrolling the streets.
Well, you know, work is being done. You know, there's nothing that comes in that is not being handled. So we're fine. We're fine. We'll keep moving.
Democratic Congresswoman Cori Bush is saying that she favors spending tens of thousands on private security to keep her safe, and that people should, quote, suck it up, defunding the police has to happen. Didn't President Biden say a few weeks ago that anybody who accuses the party of being anti-police is lying?
Well, I think we shouldn't lose the forest through the trees here, which is that a member of Congress, an elected official, is concerned that her life is threatened, and that's disturbing, that any elected official would have to suffer death threats and fear for their life.
Now, Cori Bush is not the only politician who is calling to defund the police on the one hand, while at the same time spending tax dollars, many tax dollars, on personal security. Over in the city of Chicago, Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who is also a Democrat, she publicly claimed that she opposed defunding the police. However, according to this data, it shows that officials in her administration, they quietly eliminated 400 police department positions last year, in the year 2020. And so, at the same time that 400 police jobs were abolished, the city's security detail, it peaked, costing taxpayers a cool $3.4 million in the year 2020. Meanwhile, over in the city of Baltimore, Mayor Brendan Scott, who's also a Democrat, his administration spent $3.6 million on a security detail for both himself as well as for the state attorney and the police commissioner. However, during that same time period, the Baltimore Police Department's, their budget, it was cut by $22 million. Likewise, over in the city of San Diego, Mayor Todd Gloria, who's also a Democrat, his administration's budget includes $2.6 million to protect both him as well as members of the city council.
I think this is one of those stories where, politicians are being hypocrites. No new news, but the details are pretty interesting, and I think it serves a real educational value to go through it.
Being hypocrites with public safety, though, that's a whole nother level of it. Yeah,
you're exactly right about that, because the number one public policy issue I'll submit is the resource allocation of taxpayer money to first responders and on public safety issues.
Public opinion on our side is not enough, because the racist cowards that would fire teachers and ban certain books are accurately describing the history of racism and bigotry in this country, are already showing up at school board meetings, and they're loud. So we have to be louder. We have to rise up together and show up to those same meetings, demanding that our children get a full and accurate history curriculum. If you have school-age children, pay attention to what their history textbooks say and make sure the lessons are being taught reflect reality. American history is littered with shameful policies, but it is also filled with freedom fighters. We cannot valorize American history without understanding the depths of the evil they fought against. To teach our children anything else is to rob them of their heritage.
What's more relevant now is whether the media and the Democrats will extend the label of fascism to the Republican Party itself. Should we extend that label to the Republican Party?
Without question. It's a waste of time, and quite honestly, it's a waste of our opportunity to turn things around. The next year and a half will be incredibly crucial to see if we can put a stop to this trend. And the Democrats in particular and the media in general have to face this in a way that demonstrates that they understand the seriousness of the threat. Democrats can't keep playing by old rules because Republicans have burned the rule book. There are no rules anymore.
If you like this video, press like. If you love it, subscribe.